Hello and welcome to Jurassic Reviews. On this episode we have another Godzilla King of the Monsters NECA figure, this one being the Mothra 2019. Before we begin, here's a quick look at the front of the box, which has some awesome artwork on it. I definitely prefer this over the Godzilla one. Here's the back of the box, and here's the inside of the box. This Mothra has a huge wingspan of 12.5 inches and is about 2.5 inches long, and stands 2 inches tall when it's not on its base, and its wings are in a more neutral position. When you have it on its base, it stands 8 inches tall. While we're on the subject of the base, I just want to say I love what NECA is doing here. Instead of just a clear plastic piece or something, they actually did something creative with it. This looks to be her cocoon or something, and it looks really cool. Along with the base, there was going to be a larva figure, or at least that must have been considered at some point. Unfortunately, NECA confirmed a little over a week ago that the promotional pictures with the larva should not have been released. It's disappointing, but maybe we'll see it in another release down the line. Moving on to the sculpt of Mothra, it looks great. Mothra's redesign has taken some getting used to for me, but I'm definitely coming around to it. And if this sculpt is a good representation of what she looks like in the movie, I think I'll be happy. I've only seen a few glimpses of her in the trailers, so I'm not entirely sure how close this is. I also want to briefly mention that right out of the box, one of the larger wings fell off, and for a minute or two I had trouble getting it to reattach, so be careful with this figure. It's made of incredibly light materials, and I don't think it'd be too hard to break something on it. And that same wing is also much more loose than the other now. The most major change to her design is the longer legs, with her front four legs being more praying mantis looking. According to the director, this was done to give her a fighting chance against the other monsters in the film. In the past, Mothra has relied heavily on using gusts of wind and scales from her wings to fight. She did physically hit her opponent sometimes, but not to the extent it looks like she'll be doing in this new film. So it makes sense to give her these long legs. She'll be entirely CG this time around, so she'll be capable of doing much more than she has been able to do in the past. The legs on this figure are loaded with detail, and appear almost bone-like. There are 6 of them, and they all look great. She doesn't really look fluffy like past Mothras, though I think she did look a little fluffy in the trailers. I just don't think this figure really captures that. The bone-like textures also appear along her wings. Moving on to the body, it's also a bit smaller compared to previous designs. Her wings really make her look tiny. I'd like to see how the Rodan figure compares to her when it's released, because she looks really small next to Godzilla, without taking the wings into account. She almost looks about the size of the male Muto from the first film, maybe even a little smaller. This Mothra definitely gives off a more insect vibe than ever before. She looks more wasp-like than anything, maybe mixed with some praying mantis too. The closest she's come to looking this way in the past was probably the GMK Mothra, which falls somewhere in the middle between a classic Mothra and this. Her wings, as I mentioned before, are huge and look great. They are much longer and more narrow than past Mothra designs. They are split into 4 different sections on this figure, with 2 larger forewing sections and 2 smaller hindwing sections. The detail on these wings is fantastic. You can make out the veins on each wing, and there's also some nice scaly texture work throughout them. Mothra's head is another departure from previous designs, being a lot smaller. You can also see her 2 antennas around the top of her head, though they are actually sculpted onto the figure, and not independent parts. Moving on to the paint, this Mothra has a mix of light brown and bone white colors along its legs, body, and head. There's also some darker gray colors in there as well, and the ends of each leg are dark brown in color. Details are highlighted well with this paint application, and doesn't appear sloppy at all to me. NECA did a nice job here. Moving to the head, this Mothra retains her blue eyes on this design, though like the head they are a bit smaller than in the past. Now let's move on to the most impressive part of this paint application, the wings. They are beautiful on this figure. They are painted orange and black with some white spots and lines on them. There's 2 orange variations, with the lighter orange being a little translucent. It's a very warm paint scheme overall. It gives off very autumn vibes. I'm curious if we will see another version of this figure with different colored wings, because in some of the trailers there is some blue on her wings as well, which might be tied to one of her abilities. The paint on these wings captures the look of previous Mothras, while also looking unique in its own way. A cool bit of detail is the eye spots, which according to the director were made to resemble Godzilla's eyes. I feel that this is one part of the figure that NECA had to get right, and I think they nailed it. Here's also a quick look at the base it comes with, which also has some cool paint applications on it as well. This appears to be maybe part of a Monarch facility. Moving on to the articulation, all 4 parts of the wings are posable, allowing you to raise and lower the different parts of the wings. 4 of its legs are also movable, and she can stand without needing to be on the rod and base, though it requires some balancing. The 2 middle legs appear directly attached to the body, so they really can't be moved a whole lot. It would have been nice if the antennae were individually sculpted and movable, but it's not a deal breaker by any means. A point of articulation for the head would have been nice too. Before I give my rating for this figure, here's some comparisons with other different figures. Here it is with the NECA Godzilla 2019. Here it is with the SH Monster Arts Godzilla 2001. Here it is with the NECA Godzilla 1962. Here it is with the SH Monster Arts Shin Godzilla. Here it is with the SH Monster Arts Godzilla 1964. And finally, here it is with some of my other Mothra figures in my collection. I really do like this new design a lot, but I think my favorite is still the GMK version, though I know a lot of people don't really like that design as much. I just have a thing for all things GMK. For a rating out of 10, I give this one an 8. The paint applications on the body are solid enough, and the wings are amazing. There's great detail and texture work, and enough articulation to allow for a good amount of poses, though like I said before, a different solution for the antenna would have been nice. It's hard to even notice that they are there at first. The base that NECA includes with this figure is top notch, and I'm glad that it looks like they are continuing this with their Rodan figure. It's a nice touch that adds just a little bit more to the figure. This is one of NECA's best so far, a figure worthy for the Queen of the Monsters. And that does it for my review of NECA's Mothra 2019. I'll continue to review figures from this film, and we'll have reviews of NECA's Rodan and Atomic Blast Godzilla when they eventually release, so stay tuned for that. I'll also be looking at all of their SH Monster Arts counterparts, so if you enjoyed this review and want to see more videos on future figures, feel free to subscribe. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.